I never expected to find myself sitting here, narrating the disintegration of my life over the past few months. It's astonishing how swiftly everything can change when you least anticipate it. I used to think I had it all. A devoted wife, loyal friends, and a flourishing career as a graphic designer. However, as I reflect on the past, I realize I was blissfully unaware of the brewing storm. What began as what I believed to be a solid friendship circle was about to unravel into chaos. Let me introduce you to the players in this sordid drama. I'm Ethan, a 35-year-old graphic designer employed by a large advertising firm. I'm passionate about traveling and photography, and I strive to maintain an active lifestyle. Life was smooth sailing until it suddenly wasn't. Then there's Sophie, my wife, a 34-year-old journalist bursting with ambition and a zest for life. I admired her incredible drive. She was always consumed with major reports and articles for a prestigious magazine. I thought she was merely pursuing her aspirations, and I respected that. Little did I know her ambitions would lead her down a treacherous path. Liam, my friend from college, is 36 years old, always there with a joke to lighten the atmosphere. He works in IT and has a knack for making people laugh. But beneath that humor, I couldn't shake the feeling that he harbored a flicker of jealousy toward my successes. Then there's his wife, Chloe, a warm-hearted preschool teacher who was always supportive of Liam's endeavors. She was sweet and nurturing, often acting as his moral compass. And how could I overlook Lucas? He's been my unwavering support since our college days, always ready to lend an ear and dispense advice. His frankness could sometimes spark debates, but I valued his honesty. Lastly, there's Ella, a colleague of Sophie's. The tension between Sophie and Ella was thick. They were both vying for the same coveted promotion. Ella often underestimated Sophie, which created a great deal of pressure for her. From the outside, everything appeared perfect as we celebrated our college accomplishments together, reminiscing about our shared adventures. We frequently organized outings and events, fostering what I believed to be a solid friendship. However, as time passed, I began to sense something unsettling. The chemistry between Sophie and Liam began to shift, growing dangerously intimate. One summer evening, we hosted a barbecue at our house, the sun setting and casting a golden hue over the backyard. I watched as Sophie and Liam stood close, their laughter and playful banter teetering on the edge of flirtation. I tried to convince myself it was just friendly banter, but a nagging feeling in my gut whispered otherwise. I glanced over at Lucas, who was nearby, and saw the concern etched on his face as he noted my unease. "Hey man, everything okay?" he asked, his brow furrowed with worry. "Yeah, just feels a bit off, you know?" I replied, striving for a nonchalant tone, but the words felt weighted with doubt. Lucas shrugged, attempting to quell my spiraling thoughts. "You're overthinking it. They're just friends enjoying a night out." But deep down, I felt a palpable shift in the atmosphere. The way Liam looked at Sophie was different, more intense, charged with an unsettling significance. I brushed it off, chalking it up to my own paranoia. After all, we were all friends. Shouldn't I trust my wife? Yet, as the night unfolded, I couldn't shake the sense that something was brewing beneath the surface. Sophie, typically lively and engaging, leaned in a tad too close to Liam, her laughter ringing a little too freely. My heart raced, and a wave of jealousy began to wash over me. The evening came to a close, but the uneasy feeling lingered like a bitter aftertaste. I told myself it was nothing, yet the seeds of doubt had taken root. Was I simply being insecure, or was there more to their friendship than I had been willing to admit? That night, as I lay in bed beside Sophie, I tried to push aside the growing unease. I watched her sleep, her face relaxed and untroubled. She was completely unaware of the turmoil that churned within me. How could I confront her about something I couldn't prove? "Just breathe," I whispered to myself. "It's probably nothing." Yet deep down, I feared this was the calm before a storm. Unbeknownst to me, the cracks in our relationship were only beginning to widen, setting the stage for a much darker narrative that was poised to unfold. Weeks slipped by since that troubling barbecue, and I hoped perhaps I was merely overreacting. Life continued at its usual pace, but the nagging feeling in the back of my mind refused to fade. One evening, I found myself at my desk, immersed in my work, when my phone buzzed. It was Noah, an old acquaintance from college. "Hey, Ethan. How's it going, man?" he greeted, his tone upbeat. "Hey, Noah. I'm good, just swamped with work. How about you?" "Not bad, not bad," he replied, but there was an odd undertone to his voice. As our conversation progressed, it took a sudden, unsettling turn. "Actually, I saw Sophie the other night," he said, his warmth fading. "I thought it was you at first. She was at that Italian restaurant downtown, hugging some guy." My heart plummeted. "Hugging who?" I managed to ask, trying to keep my voice even. I think his name is Liam? You know, your friend from college?" Felt like the floor had dropped out from beneath me. For a moment, I struggled to breathe, my mind racing. Liam? My best friend? The guy I had trusted implicitly for years? A surge of anger and despair welled up within me. How could this be happening? "Yeah, I know him," I barely managed to say, my voice scarcely a whisper, as if admitting Liam's name would somehow make everything worse. "Look, I'm not suggesting anything is definitely happening, but from where I was sitting, it looked pretty cozy," Noah continued, his tone shifting to one of concern. "I thought you should be aware." "Thanks for the heads up, Noah," I said, though my mind was a chaotic whirlwind. After hanging up, I felt as though I was teetering on the edge of a cliff, ready to plunge into darkness. It felt like the universe had conspired to turn my life upside down. I knew I had to confront Sophie about this, but the nagging thought that she would just deny everything made my stomach churn. Later that night, as we settled into bed, I braced myself for the difficult conversation. "Sophie, can we talk?" I said, trying to keep my voice steady, though my heart raced. She turned toward me, curiosity dancing in her eyes. "Sure. What's on your mind?" "I heard something today," I began, my pulse pounding like a war drum. "Noah mentioned he saw you at a restaurant with Liam. He said you were hugging." Her reaction was subtle but telling. "Oh, that? We ran into each other while I was out with some colleagues. It was nothing, Ethan. Just a friendly hug." "Just a friendly hug?" I repeated, struggling to keep my tone neutral, even as my insides twisted. "Noah said it looked pretty cozy." She rolled her eyes, irritation creeping into her voice. "You know how Noah is. He always exaggerates. It was nothing. We were just catching up." I studied her, searching for any hint of deceit, but she seemed genuinely oblivious to the storm brewing within me. My gut nodded with uncertainty. I wanted to believe her, but with everything I had seen with Liam, I couldn't shake the feeling that something sinister lurked beneath the surface. I decided to drop the subject for the night, but sleep eluded me. My mind raced, replaying the conversation on an endless loop. I felt like I was losing control of my own life. The next day, I resolved to seek answers from someone who might provide clarity. Chloe. Meeting her at a cozy cafe, I was filled with apprehension. We'd always been friendly, but now the stakes felt higher. I needed the truth, and I hoped she could illuminate the dark corners of my doubts. "Chloe," I said after we exchanged pleasantries, "can we talk about Liam?" Her demeanor shifted instantly, a flicker of caution crossing her face. "Sure. What's on your mind?" "I've been feeling uneasy about him lately," I confessed, my voice barely above a murmur. "I heard he's been acting strange. Has he said anything to you?" She let out a sigh, her gaze drifting to the window. "Yeah, he has been a bit off lately. Staying late at work, missing family dinners. I thought it was just work stress. But I've sensed something odd too. He's been distant." My heart sank at her admission. "So, you think something's going on?" "I don't know, Ethan. I've had my suspicions, but I didn't want to believe it. It's just not like him," she admitted, her voice thick with concern. As we shared stories and theories, anxiety washed over me like a cold wave. The ground beneath me felt unsteady, and I struggled to maintain my balance in this shifting reality. "Do you think it could involve Sophie?" I asked, the question escaping my lips before I could rein it in. Chloe's expression turned grave, her eyes shadowed with worry. "I hope not. But Liam has always had an attraction to strong women, you know?" Her words hung in the air like an impending storm, and my heart raced with dread. I had trusted Liam, counted him as one of my closest friends. Now I felt like I was staring into an abyss, unsure of how deep the treachery ran. As I left the cafe, the weight of uncertainty bore down on me like a heavy shroud. I felt trapped in a tempest, with betrayal swirling around me. I couldn't trust anyone anymore, not even Sophie. I needed to dig deeper, to unearth the truth, no matter how excruciating it might be. Little did I know, this was merely the beginning of a much darker path. The next few days blurred together in a haze of anxiety and despair. I couldn't shake the feeling that everything around me was crumbling. I needed answers, and the only sanctuary I felt I could find was at the cafe where I'd arranged to meet Chloe once more. It was a quaint spot, filled with warm lighting and the rich aroma of freshly brewed coffee. But even the comforting ambience failed to ease my troubled mind. As I entered, I spotted Chloe at a corner table, her expression thoughtful as she stirred her coffee absently. I slid into the seat across from her, my heart heavy with the burden of our impending conversation. "Thanks for meeting me," I said, mustering a smile that felt strained and unconvincing. "Of course, Ethan. I'm glad we're talking," she replied, her voice soft but laced with tension. Taking a deep breath, I laid my concerns bare. "I've been watching Sophie and Liam, and it just feels like their behavior has shifted recently. I don't know, maybe I'm imagining things, but something isn't right." Chloe leaned in, her brow furrowing with worry. "I've noticed it too. Liam has been distant. He used to engage during our gatherings, but now he's often absent from family dinners, disappearing without explanation. It's not like him at all." I could see the concern etched in her features. "It's hard to admit, but I've started questioning everything. I can't help but wonder if something is happening between them." Tears glimmered in Chloe's eyes, and she quickly blinked them away. I didn't want to believe it either, but my gut is telling me something's wrong. Liam used to adore Sophie. He always spoke so highly of her. I thought they were just friends, but now, it feels like I'm losing both of them. Her sadness mirrored my own, hitting me harder than I anticipated. We sat in silence, grappling with the emotional weight of our circumstances. It was a strange bond we shared, forged in the fires of betrayal and uncertainty. "Chloe," I said hesitantly, "this might sound odd, but we're both hurting. Perhaps we should think about taking action, something that makes them feel the pain we're experiencing." Her expression shifted from sadness to intrigue. "What do you mean? Revenge?" I said, the words slipping from my lips like venom. "What if we did something to show them that we're not going to sit back and let them walk all over us?" For a moment, she sat back, contemplating my proposal. "I don't know, Ethan. That sounds risky, but I can't deny I've thought about it too." The conversation flowed like a raging river, pulling us into a world where revenge became our guiding light. We eagerly discussed every conceivable way to make them pay for their betrayals. It felt exhilarating to plot our course of action, to reclaim the power they had so callously stripped away from us. As we delved deeper into our conversation, the tension between us crackled in the air. We laid bare our pain, our frustration, and our simmering anger. It was almost intoxicating. I found myself leaning closer, captivated by her vulnerability. When I reached across the table and she intertwined her fingers with mine, the moment hung suspended between us, thick with unspoken possibilities. "Do you really think we should go through with this?" Chloe's voice was barely a whisper, yet the fire in her eyes signaled she was ready to leap into the unknown. "I don't know," I admitted, my heart racing with anticipation and fear. "But at this point, we owe it to ourselves to find some semblance of satisfaction in this mess." We locked eyes, and a silent understanding passed between us, one filled with shared hurt, buried desire, and a flicker of mischief. The weight of our shared moment pressed down on us, creating a chasm I hadn't anticipated. Before I could fully comprehend the implications of my actions, I leaned in and kissed her. The kiss was unexpected, ignited by the chaos swirling around us, and it caught us both off guard. But when I pulled back, I saw the desire mirrored in her eyes, and it was as if a dam had burst, flooding us both with passion. What we shared wasn't just a fleeting moment of intimacy. It unleashed a spark that had been buried beneath layers of hurt and betrayal. That night, we found ourselves at my apartment, crossing a line that felt exhilarating. A line that could lead us to deeper waters, yet we were undeterred. The thought of revenge became a seductive promise, and the bond we forged acted as a salve for our emotional wounds. As the night wore on, I was flooded with a mixture of exhilaration and guilt. We were betraying our partners, yet the thrill of it overshadowed every other emotion. We fell into a rhythm that felt raw and unfiltered, each touch igniting a sense of freedom I hadn't experienced in ages. But a small voice in the back of my mind warned me this wouldn't end well. I pushed it aside, lost in the moment. We were both so consumed by our pain that we didn't contemplate the consequences of our actions. All we could see was a path of revenge unfurling before us, a way to reclaim our power in a situation that had turned our worlds upside down. Little did I realize this was merely the beginning. The choices we made that night would lead us down a treacherous path filled with deceit, betrayal, and unforeseen repercussions that would haunt us for a long time. In the days that followed, the thrill of our shared betrayal ignited a fire within both Chloe and me. We were no longer mere victims. We were poised to become avengers, ready to strike back at the people who had wronged us. Our minds raced with elaborate schemes as we plotted our revenge, the adrenaline surging through us like a powerful drug. "All right," I said, leaning over my dining room table cluttered with takeout containers and half-empty coffee cups. "We need to hit them where it hurts. They must face the consequences of their actions." Chloe nodded, her eyes glinting with fierce determination. "I've been thinking about Sophie's big article. She's poured her heart and soul into it for weeks, desperate to secure that promotion. What if we, sabotaged it?" Intrigued, I raised an eyebrow. "How would we even go about that?" "That's the beauty of it," she replied, excitement bubbling in her voice. "I overheard her talking about it at the cafe the other day. She's been working tirelessly on this piece. If we can get our hands on it while she's distracted, we can make a few alterations." A plan began to crystallize in my mind, fueled by the heat of our shared anger. "What kind of alterations are we talking about?" "We could insert some fabricated information," she suggested, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "Something that could completely undermine her credibility." I inhaled deeply, grappling with the moral implications swirling in my mind. "That feels wrong, doesn't it?" Chloe's expression hardened, her resolve evident. "Not as wrong as what they've done to us. We're merely leveling the playing field here." At that moment, I knew we were fully committed to this dark path. A few days later, Chloe called, her voice bubbling with excitement. "I found the perfect opportunity." Sophie left her laptop open at the cafe today. She was so engrossed in her work that she didn't even notice. "I can distract her while you sneak in." "Are you sure you want to go through with this?" I asked, even as a rush of anticipation coursed through me. "Absolutely," she replied, her confidence igniting my own resolve. "I'll handle the distraction. Just be ready." With our plan set, I felt an exhilarating rush wash over me. The thought of confronting Sophie and Liam's betrayal fueled my adrenaline. The stakes felt monumental, but it was nothing compared to the emotional turmoil we had both endured. The day of reckoning arrived, and Chloe and I executed our plan with meticulous precision. I paced my apartment, a storm of emotions swirling within me, anxiously waiting for her call. When my phone buzzed, I seized the opportunity. "Now," she said, excitement barely contained in her voice. I slipped into the cafe, spotting Sophie at her usual corner table, completely absorbed in her work. A twinge of guilt flickered in my chest, but the anger that had been building inside me quickly overshadowed it. Chloe approached Sophie with a bright smile. "Hey, Sophie. How's the article coming along? Oh, just fine, Sophie replied, momentarily glancing up from her laptop before quickly returning her focus to the screen. Just a few edits left, and then I should be good to go. Great. Mind if I join you for a moment? Chloe asked, her cheerful tone masking the tension beneath. Of course. Just give me a second, Sophie replied, still preoccupied with her screen. As Chloe skillfully kept Sophie engaged in conversation, I edged closer, my heart racing like a drum in my chest. I quickly spotted Sophie's document open on her screen, and my hands trembled slightly as I began typing, inserting false data and twisted statements into her meticulously crafted article. Each keystroke felt like a thrilling victory, and I could already picture the shock on her face when the truth of our sabotage hit her. Okay, all done, I murmured to myself, a sense of satisfaction washing over me as I saved the changes. My breath caught in my throat as I quickly retreated to a safe distance. Did you find everything okay? Chloe asked, her voice smooth and casual, a stark contrast to the chaos brewing beneath the surface. Yeah, just putting the finishing touches on it, Sophie replied, completely oblivious to the treachery that had just transpired. Chloe continued to steer her away from the article while I slipped out of the cafe, my heart pounding with a mixture of excitement and dread. I felt alive in a way I hadn't experienced in years, invigorated by the thrill of our revenge. But our plans didn't end there. While keeping Sophie occupied, Chloe had also reached out to her father, a powerful figure in the world of journalism. Later that day, Chloe filled me in on the details. I told my dad everything about Liam and his strange behavior. He's furious and has said he can pull a few strings to ensure Liam pays for what he's done. A rush of exhilaration surged through me. Are you serious? What does he plan to do? He has connections with the editors at Liam's firm. He can make a few calls and ensure they're made aware of his actions, she replied, a satisfied smile spreading across her face. With each passing moment, the thrill of our revenge grew. We decided that a public confrontation would serve as the grand finale, one that would leave Sophie and Liam exposed to the world. We orchestrated a gathering at a popular local bar, inviting friends and a few acquaintances. As the night approached, a mix of excitement and nerves buzzed through me. I prepared myself for the moment when the truth would come crashing down around them. When the evening unfolded, I spotted Sophie and Liam entering, their laughter ringing out like a siren's call, blissfully unaware of the storm brewing just beneath the surface. Their ease and confidence ignited a sense of satisfaction within me as I watched them mingle. After a few drinks, I gathered the courage to approach them. Hey guys, enjoying the night, I said, forcing a casual tone even as my pulse quickened. Yeah, just soaking it all in, Sophie replied, her eyes sparkling with delight. I exchanged a glance with Chloe across the room, and she nodded, signaling that it was time. Oh, by the way, I began, my heart racing with anticipation. Did you hear about Sophie's article? Liam's smile faltered slightly. What about it? I leaned in closer, savoring the moment. The one that was supposed to secure her promotion? It's about to get a lot of attention. Very bad attention. Sophie's expression shifted, confusion and alarm flooding her features. What do you mean? Before she could fully grasp the gravity of my words, Chloe joined us, her confidence radiating. Yeah, about that, Ethan and I may have made a few adjustments to your precious article. You might want to check it out. The atmosphere in the room thickened, the tension palpable. Liam's face paled as the reality of our actions began to sink in, and I could feel the curious eyes of onlookers drawn to our escalating drama. What are you talking about? Sophie demanded, her voice rising in alarm. Let's just say that your little secrets are about to be laid bare, I replied, relishing every moment of this unfolding spectacle. The room erupted in whispers, and the weight of our revenge became tangible. Sophie's complexion shifted to crimson as the realization of our betrayal washed over her. Liam, caught off guard, stared in disbelief, struggling to comprehend the situation. We watched as the consequences of their actions unraveled before our eyes. Whispers turned to gasps, and I could see the heavy burden of their betrayal crashing down upon them. In that moment, Chloe and I exchanged triumphant glances, knowing we had dealt a blow that would echo in their lives. Afterward, as we stepped outside into the cool night air, a wave of exhilaration washed over me. "We did it, Chloe. They'll never see it coming." She smiled, a wicked glint in her eyes. "And this is just the beginning. They need to feel the sting of betrayal." We celebrated our victory, reveling in a newfound sense of power. Little did we know that this act of revenge would set off a chain reaction, ensnaring us in a web of consequences we couldn't foresee. But for that night, we indulged in the thrill of our actions, feeling as though we had finally reclaimed control over our lives, even if it came at the cost of chaos and pain. The dust had barely settled after exposing Sophie and Liam's betrayals, but the fallout felt like a whirlwind sweeping through our lives, transforming everything in its path. In the aftermath, I found myself navigating a world that felt utterly alien, marked by anger, sorrow, and an unexpected sense of liberation. Following my divorce, I leaned heavily on Chloe. Our shared experiences forged a bond one hadn't anticipated. We became each other's refuge, finding solace in our mutual pain and disappointment. Late-night phone calls and coffee shop conversations turned into lifelines, allowing us to unburden our hearts as we explored the complexities of our betrayals. "I never imagined I'd be here, you know?" I confessed one evening as we lounged on my couch, remnants of dinner scattered across the table. "I thought Sophie and I had built something solid. We created a life together, and now, it all feels like a cruel illusion." Chloe nodded, her expression filled with understanding. "I feel the same way about Liam. I never imagined he could betray me like this. It's as if the man I loved has vanished." As we exchanged stories about our pasts, our aspirations, and our fears, I felt us inching closer with every revelation. Yet, even within our newfound connection, I grappled with an undercurrent of distrust. Despite Chloe's kindness and empathy, I hesitated to fully let go of my past wounds. One night, as we settled in to watch a movie, a familiar tension crept in. "Chloe, do you think we're moving too fast?" I asked, my voice laced with uncertainty. "It's only been a few months since everything." Her face grew serious, and she paused to consider her words. "I understand, Ethan. Trust is a delicate thing, especially after all we've been through. I'm still sorting through my own feelings. I just want us to be honest with one another." In that moment, clarity washed over us both. We had to confront our insecurities head-on if we were to truly move forward. I appreciated her honesty, feeling the weight of our shared trauma binding us tighter, even as we tread cautiously. Determined to take charge of her healing, Chloe began attending therapy sessions to work through her emotions. She also sought out support groups for those who had endured infidelity. I admired her resolve, even as a pang of guilt gnawed at me for not being able to heal at the same pace. "I think it's vital for us to carve our own paths to healing," she said one day after returning from a support group meeting. "I want to be strong for myself first before diving into anything new with us." Her words resonated deeply within me. I realized I hadn't fully processed the betrayal or its fallout. Instead, I had immersed myself in work to avoid confronting my feelings, but they lingered like ghosts, haunting my thoughts. Meanwhile, Sophie struggled to rebuild her shattered life. News of her betrayal spread like wildfire, leaving her reputation in ruins. It was painful to witness from afar, yet a part of me felt vindicated. I had lost my marriage due to her choices, and now she was facing the repercussions of her actions. I caught glimpses of her on social media, her once bright posts now replaced by dark updates and desperate pleas for help. "Looking for my next opportunity," she lamented in one post, her tone defeated. I didn't respond, though a tumult of old feelings, love, anger, and betrayal, clashed violently within me. Liam, on the other hand, sank into a pit of despair. I saw him one night at a bar, slumped over a drink, his eyes glassy and devoid of life. The vibrant friend I once knew had been replaced by a hollow shell, drowning in alcohol. It was jarring to witness his transformation. Chloe, "Have you seen Liam lately?" I asked one evening as we prepared dinner together. "He looks like he's unraveling." "I've heard he's been drinking heavily," she replied, concern threading through her voice. "I hate to see him like this. He's still my husband in some ways, and it breaks my heart." "I understand," I said, stirring the sauce on the stove. "But he made his choices just like Sophie did. They both need to face the consequences of their actions." Despite the support we offered one another, the shadows of our pasts continued to loom. I was terrified to fully commit to a relationship again, even with Chloe. Time and again, I caught myself holding back, haunted by the fear of further betrayal. As the weeks turned into months, our relationship deepened, yet the road was riddled with obstacles. We tried to forge a new dynamic together, but often clashed as we navigated our insecurities. "Ethan, you're not the only one struggling," she would remind me during tense discussions. "I need you to meet me halfway." I wanted to, I truly did. But every time we approached that threshold, an invisible wall would rise between us, and I couldn't help but retreat. "I'm sorry. I just can't shake this feeling," I'd admit, frustration tightening in my chest. "I understand," she'd reply, tears shimmering in her eyes. "But if we're going to make this work, we need to be open. We can't keep avoiding our past forever." It became a constant dance of push and pull, but through it all, we discovered moments of light amid the darkness. Shared laughter over inside jokes, the warmth of our hands brushing together, and the comfort of knowing we weren't alone in this chaotic mess. Despite our individual battles, we held on to each other, nurturing the hope that, in time, we could heal and build something more resilient than before. Yet, as we faced the fallout from our past choices, I couldn't help but wonder if we could truly forge a new path together, or if we were doomed to repeat the same mistakes that had shattered our lives. For now, we took it one day at a time, clinging to the hope that we could create a life worth living, free from the shadows of betrayal and heartache. But as I looked at Chloe, I understood we still had a long, arduous road ahead. Time has a peculiar way of healing wounds, yet it can also allow old grudges to fester if left unchecked. As the months drifted by, I navigated this new life with Chloe, but the specters of our pasts loomed ever closer. Our relationship had evolved, yet remnants of hurt and doubt clung to us like a shadow, obscuring the potential we had fought so hard to build. We both tried to push forward, but the weight of our betrayals often hung between us like an unwelcome specter. The thrill of our revenge had faded, leaving behind a bitterness that was difficult to shake. I began to notice subtle shifts in Chloe as well. She was eager to move on, but occasionally I could see her grappling with doubts about our future together. "Chloe, can we talk?" I asked one evening as we settled onto the couch, the oppressive silence of our apartment closing in around us. "Sure," she replied, glancing up from her phone. "I feel like we've been skirting around our issues. Sometimes I think about how we started this, our revenge, everything that followed. I can't help but wonder if it's truly healthy for us to keep pushing forward without addressing it." Chloe's expression shifted, revealing the weight of her thoughts. "I get it, Ethan. I've been feeling the same way. Sometimes I wonder if we rushed into this relationship too quickly. We both carry so much baggage, and I can't shake this feeling that I'm still grappling with my distrust. I think I need some time to sort through my feelings," I confessed, the heaviness of my words pressing down on me. "I'm considering seeing a therapist to help me process everything. I need to understand how the betrayal has impacted me." Her eyes softened with understanding. "I think that's a wise choice. We need to take care of ourselves before we can truly support one another." We both recognized this as a pivotal moment, one that could either solidify our bond or create a rift. I knew I had to take a step back, to confront my demons head-on. This wasn't just about Sophie or Liam anymore. It was about my own journey toward healing. I began attending therapy sessions, laying bare my thoughts and feelings in those small, quiet rooms. Each session peeled back layers of pain I hadn't even realized were there. I started confronting the hurt and anger that had taken root in my heart, learning from my therapist that the betrayal was not a reflection of my worth, but rather a failure on their part. But as I embarked on this path of self-discovery, Chloe faced her own struggles. "It's tough, Ethan," she admitted one evening over dinner, her voice tinged with emotion. "I want to move forward, but I keep questioning whether we made the right choices. Did our revenge truly help us, or did it complicate everything further?" Her words resonated deeply. I could see the turmoil in her eyes as she grappled with the consequences of our actions, and it hit me that we both had a long way to go before we could genuinely heal. "Maybe we need to be honest about what we want," I suggested gently. "This relationship feels complicated. Perhaps it's time for a reevaluation." As our conversations deepened, it became clear we were still navigating the aftermath of our tumultuous pasts. Each of us was on a different healing timeline. While I was making strides, Chloe struggled to fully trust me again. Some days we shared an intimate connection, but on others, old insecurities crept in, clouding our interactions. One night, after a particularly charged discussion, I felt the weight of our situation crashing down on me. "I think it might be best if we take a break," I said softly, each word feeling like a weighty admission. "I care about you, but I'm not sure I can give you what you need right now, and I don't want to hold you back." Chloe's eyes glistened with tears as she looked at me. "I don't want to lose you, Ethan, but I understand. We've both been through so much." We embraced, the warmth of our connection flooding back, if only momentarily. It was a bittersweet acknowledgement that we had grown close through shared trauma, yet recognized that we needed space to heal individually. In the weeks that followed, we gradually drifted apart but maintained a semblance of friendship, exchanging occasional texts and coffee catch-ups. As I navigated this transition, I found clarity I hadn't anticipated. I began to rediscover who I was beyond the shadows of my past relationship. Eventually, I met someone new. Her name was Emma. We crossed paths at a gallery opening where I was showcasing my photography. She was radiant, her laughter infectious, and a warmth radiated from her that instantly drew me in. As we chatted, I found myself sharing thoughts and feelings I hadn't expected to reveal. "I love your work," she said, admiring my photographs. "There's such a raw honesty in your art that really resonates with me." I smiled, feeling a connection blossom between us. With Emma, everything felt refreshingly different. There were no ghosts of betrayal lurking in the background. Our conversations flowed effortlessly, and I sensed a genuine trust beginning to grow. As our relationship blossomed, I realized that Emma was helping me release the grip of my past. She didn't judge me for my history. Instead, she encouraged me to embrace my healing journey. With her, I began to see that true happiness was within reach, even after everything I had endured. One evening, as we walked through a serene park with the sun setting in a brilliant display of colors, I took her hand, a smile lighting up my face. "Thank you for being so understanding," I said, feeling a rush of gratitude. "I never thought I could feel this way again." She squeezed my hand, her eyes shining with warmth. "We all have our pasts, Ethan. What truly matters is how we choose to move forward. I'm genuinely excited about where this journey is taking us." In that moment, I knew I had finally turned a corner. The road hadn't been easy, but I emerged stronger and more resilient. I had learned to confront my past, and now, with Emma by my side, I felt ready to embrace whatever the future held. As I stepped into this new chapter of my life, I realized that genuine happiness lay ahead, and I was finally prepared to pursue it.